I was breastfeeding my fourth baby at the time that I discovered my lump. It was probably about a week and a half or 2 weeks after my mammogram to actually get my biopsies done from the breast radiologist. I said, I just want to know, I know we don't have the pathology back, and I know you just did the biopsy, but you do this all day long. I said, I want you to tell me honestly what you think. And I remember her looking at me and she said, Kellyanne, this is 100% cancer and it needs to come out soon. Before I had cancer, I feel like I was a really healthy person. I was gluten-free. I didn't even wear deodorant. I've had no chronic illnesses, didn't take any medicine, but there were some stressors, pretty significant stressors in my life. I kept thinking that they got the diagnosis wrong. They told me that I needed to go back and have additional views in my other breast, but before I could even get back to my house, she called me and she said, Kellyanne, they actually think you have cancer in both breasts and you need immediate biopsies. And I was speechless. I looked at her and I said, I'm breastfeeding my 2-year-old still, and she nurses a couple times a day still, and we nurse at night to go to sleep. And I said, can I still breastfeed her today, or do I need to wait a couple of days? And she said, unfortunately, I think you have a long road ahead of you, and I think you should just stop nursing now. For her to say that, it was just hard because that's the stage of motherhood that's over, and it has to end in a really hard way. A couple days after my biopsy, I felt the lump in my lymph node, and I hadn't felt any enlarged lymph nodes yet. And so they put ice packs under my arm and just kind of really vasoconstricted my vessels and clamped them down. And then she was able to safely do the biopsy, and it went well. But she called me about 4 days later, and my lymph node was positive. I had cancer, not only in my breast, but in my lymph node. So that kind of told us that it was at a higher stage than what we originally thought. A nurse practitioner that is a colleague of mine, I called her and I said, what do you think my next step is? What's the first thing I need to do? And she said, you need to get to Riordan and you need to get on IV vitamin C. I was just blown away because Dr. West spent 2 hours with me, and the next day in my email was like a 20-page treatment plan that was like completely individualized. It was all the supplements that I needed to stop taking, all of the supplements I needed to start taking, all of the nutrient labs she wanted to test, things that had never been checked before. There was a whole reference works cited page on the back of my treatment plan with all of the studies listed, a surgery protocol. So I had this whole way to prep and prepare my body to get ready for all of my surgeries. She also included mindfulness type things. And she had things in there she wanted me to go out in nature and spend time in the trees. And this is what the research says about being in a forest and being around tree oils. The whole treatment plan addressed my whole being. And as a healthcare provider myself, I just was wow, this, every cancer patient deserves this type of care. I had already started my mistletoe treatments, my dietary changes, my mushroom supplements, all of my other supplements that Dr. West had recommended. And before I even started chemo, I couldn't feel my lump anymore. I finished chemo and it was time for my lumpectomy. They actually had to take me that day and do guide wires and put wires from the outside into my breast where my biopsy clip was, so they knew exactly where my cancer was, because there was actually no lump to remove. She said, we took the biopsy around where your cancer was. We took the biopsy clip and some tissue around it to send to pathology. And she said, we removed 3 lymph nodes, the one that was positive and then the 2 that followed that one. a week or two later, I called the nurse to see if they'd gotten my pathology reports. She was like, "Oh, I can't find them. I can't find them." And she goes, "Oh, here it is. It's just because it's only one page." She goes, "There's no cancer." And she said, "I'm used to seeing the cancer that we removed with the lumpectomy." But she said, "On your report, there was no cancer to be removed." And she said, "So your lump was completely gone." And she said the tissue, it showed a complete pathological response. My lymph node had a complete pathological response. There was no cancer in the lymph node in any of the 3 lymph nodes. And I really do think it was because of the integration of both sides, the conventional side and my oncologist and the chemo. And then also, of course, a huge part of it was my protocols I was doing from Riordan and all of that treatment that was supporting my body to heal itself as well. Cancer is probably the worst thing that could have ever happened to me, because I'm a better mom, I'm a better wife. Like, I'm gonna live so much more of a healthy life now that I know what I know. And even my kids have taken from that. They've seen mom not be able to go to all their activities because she had cancer, because she was sick from chemo. And so they've actually become more mature. They've become more compassionate humans. I remember, like, when I did find out the lymph node was positive, I looked at my husband and I said, "This is going to be a battle." And he said, "Well, I'm going to be right there in front of you holding a sword." And like, that's how, like, he's been like this whole journey. We were in Wichita during my mistletoe treatments, and I was actually in an infrared sauna doing some sauna treatments and trying to detox from radiation. My breast was completely 3rd-degree burns from the radiation, and it was all crusted and oozing, and I looked horrible. I had no hair. And I remember he was sitting in the sauna with me, and he looked over and did something, like, just kind of like to mess with me or something. We started laughing, and he goes, "I'm going to be doing that to you till we're 90. And like, it sounds like the stupidest thing to say, but at that moment, it was like the most perfect thing to say, because in my most vulnerable state, it was like he was saying, "I'm gonna be here till you're 90. Like, I don't care what you look like. I don't care how sick you get. Like, I'm gonna be supporting you through all of that." I cannot honestly imagine fighting cancer or curing cancer without a provider like Dr. West or a place like Riordan. And I really attribute my full healing to Riordan and Dr. West, because I couldn't have done it without them.